All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's NBA pre-lock show where we are here to show you what we're doing to try and take down some tournaments and then also just kind of talk to you about games as we go, each game by game. We have 7 games on deck today, slightly more than we've had in a while. I'm a sucker for the small slates. I love them. But, Brandon, I know you like these larger slates. You're feeling good, aren't you?
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit. There's some pretty solid games on this slate, and definitely some low on spots. I definitely think we can get some leverage on. So definitely looking forward to it. And congrats to you, by the way, too, because you took down the mini max last night. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to give you a shout out there and give you your flowers. So definitely, congrats there.
Appreciate that, man. It was a good one last night, and there are a lot of things that didn't go our way, but the right things came together in the right lineup. So I'll take
Yeah.
that every time. JP83, what's up, man? He said, just go ahead and lock Peyton Watson. The dude is unreal. Honestly, we might be close to it if
I have
news
my
breaks
rant ready to
today.
go because I mean we talked about him on the show last night, so I won't jump ahead, but I do have something to say about Peyton Watson for sure.
Uh-oh. Okay. That's going to be good. Cujo, good to see you, man. Bobby, I appreciate you. Maria, good to see you. Yeah, football's almost over. Like, this is NBA time. Go ahead and get warmed up right now. WW Will, appreciate you. Yeah, we have some takedowns coming in tonight. John, Jason, Long. I see some of these. We'll get to some of these conversations as we get into the games. But let's start off with the Raptors going up against the Pacers. 220.5 total of a 1-point spread. There is news, injury news from this game, and there's injury news throughout a lot of these games. So buckle up, get ready. Probably going to be a late swap kind of night, for better or worse. But for the Raptors tonight, Emmanuel Quickly is out. That was news we got maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. And so Sheed was already someone, Jamal Sheed was already popping for a lot of us. With Emmanuel Quickly out, it really stabilizes him as a play, as someone I like to see show up in a lot of lineups. RJ Barrett is also out. That's why Shed is starting. And again, with those two together, it really just benefits them both. Barrett being out and Quickly being ruled out are also usage rate bumps for guys like Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes, too. And then Jakob Poeltl's been out for a minute, which is why we've been seeing Colin Murray Boyles and uh, Mamu show up a good amount. And then on top of that, Sandru Mamu Kachalovsky is also out. And so it makes Colin Murray Boyles an even safer play. These guys are showing up a lot. What are you doing here, man?
Yeah, I'll definitely start with the two obvious with Jamal Shed and Colin Murray Boyles. Shed, I was a little worried about, especially if Quickly was going to play, but to definitely feel more comfortable with him out. So definitely a great play at 4,700. Should play a ton of minutes tonight. So solid value there. Uh, Colin Murray Boyles, another obvious play. I originally had a 20% man, but of course with that news, he's just popping. So he will be another core play for me. Glad to see the field finally caught up on him too, because I feel like I've been on the Murray Boyles train for quite a while. There were slates where I was playing him under 1%. Pretty much the Chico was whenever Podol got ruled out, just play some Murray Boyles. So
You were early to the party. You were
yeah,
one of the first people I heard mention Colin Murray Boyles, and then right after you did, he went off, and then I just kept playing him after
yeah,
that, and it's just continued. Uh,
exactly.
he's been so
Yeah,
good.
Phil finally caught up on him, so I don't think our ownership is quite updated yet. I find it hard to believe he'll only be about 14%. But yeah, love him quite a bit, especially since you can play him at power forward. And then I did have to put a 20% man on Ingram. I typically don't like to force him in, but with Barrett and Quickly out, especially against the Pacers, I want 7,600. Felt like I needed some exposure in this spot, and then Barnes is popping by himself. Don't mind him. He's so up and down. He can get you 50, 61 game and then 20 to 30 the next. So definitely have to play with caution there. But again, with two of their main guys out, it is a little easier to stomach Barnes and Ingram. So currently at 39% there, so well over the field. But again, ownership should change on this team. So curious what that's going to be. And then I'll be keeping an eye on ownership on AJ Lawson and Elijah Martin. There's going to be a lot of extra minutes open for the backup guards. So curious to see what their ownership would be, but those between those two, they might be like a 5%er for me. If you're playing 150, definitely wouldn't go there and 20 max, but definitely don't mind shots there either.
Yeah. Where I'm at right now, E-Man or Iman literally was asking the same question about AJ Lawson. Will he get some minutes?
He should be the main backup to Shed.
Yeah, we have him projected for roughly 19 minutes. So, yeah, he'll be out there. What's up, Tattoo? Good to see you, man. Longwin said, would have won huge last night if it wasn't for Amin, Nas, and DiVincenzo. Yeah, those guys sucked last night. It was brutal with them. Let's see. I thought Nas was in a smash spot. I thought for sure he was the one I didn't have to worry about. But he just did his regular thing. But where I'm at here with the Toronto, I didn't have to put him in on anybody, actually. Shed, he shows up in 99% of lineups. Scotty Barnes is showing up in 82% of lineups. Colin Murray Boyles is showing up in 59% of lineups. And Brandon Ingram is in 47%. All about doing anything to him. And then guys like AJ Lawson is showing up in 13% of lineups. I'm not doing it. I'm not forcing it. It's just the DS doing his thing. I'm not going to question it. And then I'll be honest, I don't even know who Elijah Martin is, but he's showing up in 9% of lineups. So these Toronto guys are showing up, and I'm not doing anything to make that happen. It's just a good spot for them with the injuries they have out. I'm not overthinking Scotty Barnes. He's typically not consistent, but the reason he's not is because this team has a lot of players who can get there, and he doesn't have to do it every night. With RJ Barrett out and Quickly out, like you mentioned, I feel a bit better about his floor, and I like this team. So we will have a lot of these guys. All right, next up we have the Pacers side of this game. A little bit less interesting because they don't have anywhere near as many injuries as Toronto. Benedict Mathurin is the main guy who has been out for a while. No real new injury news outside of that. That's what I'm saying, Longwin. Like sometimes, I don't know who any of these people are, who rarely ever see the court, but now they're viable. But Pacers, same situation as usual, going up against Toronto. What are your thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, at first I was like, I don't really like anyone here. I'll take that back. Usually Andrew Nembhard, he's one guy I love getting leverage on. I just feel like he always gets slept on.
Yep.
He can have a couple of down games here and there, but overall, like he's just always so low on and somebody who can get you 40 to 50 points. So definitely wanted to get some leverage there and threw a 10% min, but everyone else I was kind of going back and forth on. I ended up deciding to put a 10% min on J Huff, though, especially with how depleted the Raptors front court is. J Huff is another 4K guy who can get you around 30 points. He just did it last game. I think he got a little over 30 fantasy points. Only thing with him is the way they split their minutes at the 5. So that part kind of concerns me slightly, but this is a good environment for Huff and someone else you can play at power forward too. So willing to take a shot there. And then Walker, I wanted to take a shot on 4K flat. He plays a lot of minutes and just another guy on this team who can get you around 30 points. So pretty sure he was popping on the sim model as well. So just wanted to throw a little 5% min on there and take a shot. Everyone else, I feel like is priced pretty appropriately. Gave Siakam some thought, but I think there's better spots around his price range, so didn't get there.
Yeah, I was with you on the Nembhard leverage. It's just one of those things where Sim likes him a good amount. Matchup's not awful, and he's been in decent form too. So 10% min there, nothing too wild, just double the field. And then I wasn't on the Huff and Walker plays, but I like those. Huff in a soft matchup. I don't like Huff, just so y'all know. I am biased against him. He's someone I don't like to play. But in a soft matchup with a lot of these guys out, it makes sense. So I'll put a 10% min on him, put the bias to the side, and just take a shot on him. And then Walker, were you on Walker on Monday? I don't know why. I feel like people were talking about Walker a lot last week.
No, I didn't play him on Monday, I don't think.
He might not have even played on Monday. But I'll put a 5% min on him, just like you did, and just kind of follow you there. Next up, we have a sneaky game that I think we both like a lot. Nice total here, 236, 1-point spread. Cavs going up against the Sixers. For the Cavaliers tonight, they are without Dean Wade and Max Strus, who've been out for a while, so they're pretty healthy, which is normally something we don't love, which is kind of the reason why all these guys are low owned, is they're one of the few teams who are healthy. But this close competitive game is what's kind of keeping me interested. Looks like you like them too.
Yeah, like you said, this right here, 236.5 game total, and that spread, that holds true. And then the ownership right here, I think this is like one of the perfect game environments to get some exposure to when no one else is really playing it. So this team is very frustrating to play when everybody's healthy. So I kind of just put some small mins on everybody. Of course, Donovan Mitchell is probably my favorite play on this team. So I have a bit higher exposure there at 10%. So slightly over the field there. And then just threw a 5% min on a few of the other starters that have pretty high usage and great points per minute guys too. So 5% min on Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and Darius Garland. So have a decent mixture of all the starters. All the other guys, they're okay, and I don't hate shots there. Just price-wise, couldn't get there compared to some of the other spots we have throughout the slate.
Yeah, we just have better value than these guys. Can someone get hot? Yeah, sure, but less likely than some of the other spots we have on the slate. For me, Donovan Mitchell's a leverage play. I have a 15% min on him. I like Mitchell in close competitive matchups. I like Mitchell in most matchups, especially when he's low owned. So I'm going to take a shot on him with a 15% min. I'm so close to putting a 5% min on Mobley, but I'm not going to do it. I just don't love this spot for him. But with that being said, Jared Allen is a leverage play for me. This matchup isn't great. He pops on the sim model, but he's cheaper. And so that's kind of my way of still getting exposure to some of these bigs. Matchup against Embiid is never something I love to target, especially with like foul trouble and things of that sort. But Embiid's not like the scary defensive player he once was either, so I'm not overly concerned. So Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell, leverage plays. The rest I'm just going to kind of let be. Anything else you want to add here?
Nope.
All right. John, I see your question. Perfect timing for it. Any love for Paul George? Here we are. We have the Sixers. They're healthy, which just like the Cavs is why all these guys are low owned. The difference, though, is Sixers are like a solid defense. The Cavs are now kind of borderline pushing bad. They play at a really fast pace, and they're just not a good defensive team. Who are you highlighting here?
I thought about Embiid, but I just couldn't pull myself to at least force him in. Let me see if he's showing up. Nope. Yeah, I just couldn't do 9,300. If he was still in that 8K range, then I would have forced him in. We just haven't seen that upside we used to see out of him for this price tag, and I just think we have a better center plays tonight. So didn't get there. I'm not a huge Paul George fan tonight. He's been battling the issues with his knee, and he didn't look too hot last game. I know he pissed a lot of people off. I think it was on Sunday where he was a late scratch. So probably avoiding that too. I don't know if y'all just saw, but DS is only giving me 1% currently. So definitely fine with that. However, I did want to target at least the guards on this team. On the other side of the ball, Cleveland, like you said, they're borderline a bad defense now, but they bleed more points to guards. So I wanted to get some leverage on Maxey with his upside in this spot. Somebody slate breaking upside through a 10% min. And I wish Edgecombe was still in that 6K range. So 7,200 is kind of a tough price to stomach. But again, in this kind of game environment, I'm willing to take a shot because we have seen that upside out of him. So 5% men there, still kind of a leverage play. So
Yeah.
just targeting those two and no one else.
Yeah, I really kind of oversold this game. I kind of hyped it up like I have a ton of exposure to it. I don't. I just like the game more than most.
Yeah.
I just like you. I have a 10% min on Maxi and I have a 5% min on BJ Edgecombe. And the reason why these guys are low owned is they're priced appropriately. There's not a lot of value we're getting here. It's really just kind of betting on the matchup and the game environment and maybe even a little bit of OT. Like that's kind of what you're betting on here. You're not getting a value on price like you are in some of the other games on this slate. So they're not priorities. They're just guys I like to have in the mix here. Tattoo, you know, you can reach out to B Dubs in the DMs. He might be into that. I'm not gonna put that out there though. Yeah, PG is a hell no for me too. I didn't even mention him. I can't with PG these days. I get it. He's had some pop games and he'll have some more. I'm just not trying to chase it. Next up, we have the Jazz going up against the Bulls. Two god-awful defenses going up against each other. They also have some pretty solid offensive players, so it's not two completely shitty teams. It's just one side of the ball they completely ignore. 4.5 point spread, highest total on the slate. You're going to play these guys tonight, and some of them will disappoint you, but some of them you're going to have. The thing we have to do is try to figure out who those guys are. For Utah, they are without Lauri Markkanen, which is what is boosting some of these value guys. And then Kevin Love is out because he's resting. No new injury news outside of that. Who's standing out for you?
Keontae.
And
Just play Keontae. Yeah. I'm not complaining at all, but he's just, we say it all the time, 16% ownership in a spot like this. I don't understand. So I'm loading up. I originally just put a 40% man, but then I just threw a love on him and made him a core play. So I'm going to have a lot of Keontae tonight. 8,200 is too cheap for this game environment. Hopefully it stays competitive, knock on wood. If it does, like he should be 9K or higher. So not really thinking too hard on that spot. And then Nurkic, I think he definitely deserves his flowers too. He's been playing really solid basketball lately. I think it's like the last 4 games he's put up close to 50 fantasy points. So we know how weak Chicago is down low. So great matchup for him, and wanted at least 15% to match the field there. So I know that price is kind of getting up there, but well deserved with how he's playing. So really, those are the only two that are my focal points here. I did give Filipowski a thought because usually when either Markkanen or Nurkic is out, I like to play him, but he's just been bad lately, and not a fan of his price tag with the current form he's in. But if you land on him, I don't hate it because of the matchup. But again, I just think there's other spots elsewhere.
Yeah, it's another spot that I think outside of Keontae George and Nurkic, I want to like, but I can't find a great reason to like these guys because they are so inconsistent and they suck most of the time. And their minutes aren't consistent either. That's part of it.
Yeah, they play deep rotations.
They play different rotations. And the starting lineup doesn't even really matter half the time. So I'm with you. I'm doing pretty much the same thing. I have a 40% min on Keontae George. I didn't put a love on him to make him show up even more. Primarily because the reason I don't like these large slates is that I just want to have a lot of exposure to these people who are in good spots. And so it just makes me a little bit less aggressive than I probably should be. So I don't think that's a bad thing to do at all. But I'm just sticking with a 40% min. We'll have a lot of leverage on Keontae George per usual. We just need everyone else to come through too. Nurkic, I have a 20% min on. We've been picking on bigs against Chicago all year long. We're just going to keep doing that here. And then I was considering guys like Bryce Sensabaugh, Kyle Filipowski, Ace Bailey. I know that Ace call out was crazy, but I was trying to find a reason to play them in this soft matchup, but ultimately I couldn't. If anyone, it would be Filipowski, but he's a little too high owned for me in this spot. If he was a sneaky low owned play, I'd be all over it.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
at this ownership, I'm kind of like, screw it. So just Georgia Nurkic for me here. The Chicago Bulls side of this is seeing even more ownership. Prime, and the weird thing is, there's not really a lot of ownership or injury news here. Like Julian Phillips is questionable. That doesn't really matter to me. It's really just the matchup, and none of them are too expensive. So who are you liking here?
Yeah, I definitely like this side of the ball better than the other side. Kobe White, of course, is chalk of the night. I will say the only concern with him is the amount of minutes he's been playing. We have him projected for 26, so that does slightly concern me, but it's Utah. So at 5,800 with how aggressive he is offensively, he's cheap enough to do some damage still in this spot. So I'm going to eat that chalk. And then I put 15% mins on Herder. Played pretty well last game. Usually don't like to force him in, especially at 5K. But again, games against Utah, I'm gonna target that defense. So want to take shots there. Vooch is another guy I haven't really been forcing in too much, but again, spot's too good not to have any. And then want to be slightly over the field on Buzelis and Trey Jones. Buzelis is in much better form, has been putting up solid games. Trey Jones has been kind of up and down, but he smashed last night. I know he was your guy last night and was in your winning line, so hopefully he can keep that momentum going tonight. I thought about Io, but couldn't get there, especially with Kobe White back in. I did consider Jalen Smith too, but I think he's just a little too pricey for me tonight at 5,500.
Yeah, I mean, I will never claim to be the guy who knows absolutely everything because I don't. Last night we said it. We were like, or I was like, I think these guards are gonna have more ball handling opportunities. I don't have a freaking clue which one it's gonna be, so I put him in on Kevin Herter, Io, and Trey Jones. Trey Jones just so happened to be in the right lineup. But with Kobe White back, screw those other guards. I don't love them. I just don't want to get exposure to that mix. I'll put and force exposure to the most talented one, who's Kobe White. But like you said, I'm still worried about the minutes. So it's not the safest play, but it is the one I want to be significantly over the field on. So I have a 60% min on Kobe White, just kind of making sure he shows up in a lot of lineups. He might be the guy who disappoints us tonight. I'm already mentally prepared for it, kind of already over it. So we'll see what happens there. But I like being over the field on him. Buzelis is the next guy I like being over on. Just a great matchup. And he's a high usage guy. He did disappoint me a lot last time out, but we're back at it against the Jazz. We say it all the time. Guys have their best games against the Jazz. And then we have Vucevic, who I like playing in soft matchups. He's aggressive, so I'll take it. 15% min there, and that's it. So for me, it's really Kobe White, Buzelis, and Vucevic. And then some of these guys might show up by themselves. Guys like Jalen Smith is showing up in 16% of lineups. I don't hate it, but I don't love Jalen Smith. He started last time out with Kobe White out, and they were playing a lot of too big. I just don't think they're going to play it the same way with Kobe White back.
Yeah.
I'll still allow Jalen Smith, but I'm going to cap him at 10%, so I don't have to worry about him as
They
well.
don't really need to play that against Utah anyways. So.
Yeah. And then Kevin Herter is showing up in 6% of lineups. I'm okay with that. And that's about it. And then Trey Jones is showing up in 1% of lineups still. And, that's fine. I'm not going to X him out or do anything like that.
We did just get news that he'll be limited to 28 to 30 minutes. So slightly more than what we have him in for. So Kobe White.
And what was the limit?
28 to 30. We have him at 26. So.
Hey, that's pretty good. You get 28, 30 minutes of 5,800 against the Jazz?
Yeah, I'll take that.
We'll take it. We'll take it. All right. Let's see. Rock and Rod Foy said, "Do you like Io
Nope,
Dasumo?"
I do not.
Yeah, I'm not getting there. Steve, I see your question. It involves Harden, so we'll get there a little bit later. McNasty said, "How about slow mo? Is Kyle Anderson on the slate?" I don't.
Yeah, he is. Utah. He's popping like crazy on the sim model too, but I wasn't sure if I can bring myself to playing him tonight. Maybe if it was a smaller slate, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
and I'll be honest. I didn't really think about Kyle Anderson very much this late. He's cheap.
Because he should see some solid minutes with Kevin Love out. So
Yeah, we haven't projected
and
for
marketing.
25. That's not bad. He's just a low points per minute guy. I don't like him, but I can understand how you get there. Yeah, it probably will be White now. Yeah, the limit did not worry me. All right, next up we have the Nets going up against the Pelicans. We love picking on the Pelicans pretty much every single slate. For Brooklyn, they have no real new injury news. They just have a great matchup against the Pelicans. So what are you doing here?
I hate seeing the Nets on the slate, and I usually skip right over them. But like you just said, we love attacking the Pelicans, so I will be playing some, but not going too crazy. I feel like you got to have some Claxton exposure. We say it all the time. I mean, overall, they're weak on defense, but especially the front court. Dairy Queen and Misi, between both of them, their strong suits are definitely not defense. So 6,100 in this spot, I think, is too cheap. So I have a 20% min there. MPJ, solid spot, 10% min. His ceiling, he's shown his ceiling is up to 60 now. He's had multiple 50-point games. So definitely want to make sure I have exposure to him tonight. And then Day'Ron Sharp, this dude, like, even though he doesn't play the most minutes out of everybody, like, his points per minute rate is just insane. And honestly, I've said it before, but I think he very well could be a starter if he was on a different team for sure. So, and in a spot like this, I wanted to make sure I have some exposure at a 3% ownership. So just do a 5% min on him, and then couldn't really find any reason to play anybody else. This is another team, kind of like Utah, where they just play everybody, and everybody else is kind of priced appropriately. So not willing to risk it anywhere else.
Yeah, I really hate when like my two philosophies go up against each other. It's like play guys against the Pelicans, avoid all the Nets besides MPJ. When that happens, I'm really just gonna play a lot of MPJ, and if the other guys get there, they get there. Ultimately, my thought process, just kind of looking at the slate in more of like a macro way, I like Brook Lopez so much at the center position that I'm kind of ignoring a lot of the other centers on the slate outside of him,
Yeah.
and then really just kind of focusing more on a lot of the more talented players on these other teams that I can now afford with that. So I have a 30% min on MPJ, and that's it. I do get the Nick Claxton call and the Day'Ron Sharp call. Again, I'm going to be honest about my biases. I just hate the rest of the Nets, and so I refuse. But let me see if any of them show up by themselves. Claxton shows up in 2% of lineups, and Sharp shows up in 1% of lineups. So anywhere from 2 to 4 lineups, they will still be there. I'm not Xing them out or anything like that. What's up, Heather? I see you, man. All right, for the Pelicans tonight, other side of this game, we have Herb Jones out, Jose Alvarado's out. No, nothing really too new for this team. They're going up against the Pelicans or the Nets, which they're a solid defense, pretty average. Do you like any of the Pelicans tonight?
No, usually I don't mind taking a couple shots here and there on this team, but tonight, or actually, I'm lying. I did force one guy in, but overall, guys like Dairy Queen and Trey Murphy, I usually like taking shots on, but didn't get there tonight. I did force in 5% of Misi, just because, like I said last night, he continues to play around 20 minutes and continues to get around 20 fantasy points. Definitely don't probably need to with the Brook Lopez value, but I have some lines with Brook Lopez plus another cheap center. So I'm liking the look of some of those lines. So just want to get different in certain spots, but again, probably not needed. So that was really the only shot I took.
No, I don't hate it. I was trying to find a reason to play these guys. If anyone for me, it would have been Derek Queen, but I didn't get there. So no Pelicans for me tonight. I'll double check these exposures. Yeah, hard pass, but I don't hate the game environment, so I get it. Next up, we have the Denver Nuggets going up against the Dallas Mavericks. Lowest total or second lowest total on the slate at 224, but close spread at 2.5 points because they're both pretty banged up at this point of the season. For Denver, Jamal Murray's questionable. That is everything, and it's why we will probably have to late swap. I think most people are assuming he'll probably end up getting ruled out. If he gets ruled out, Pickett will move into the starting lineup, Jalen Pickett, and with guys like Brown out already, Bruce Brown is questionable. Pickett would become a very, very, very good play at 5,300 against a Mavs team that I'm not overly concerned about when it comes to defense. And then with Brown out, guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown, Tyson already see a bit of a boost. But if Jamal Murray gets ruled out, then all of these turds become significantly more viable. What's your approach here with the Nuggets?
So I'll start with Mr. Peyton Watson. So if you watched the show last night, one thing I said about him is I feel like he's another guy who isn't getting the attention that he deserves, and the same thing applies tonight. I don't know if it's the price tag that's scaring people away or what. I really don't get it. 8% ownership in this spot with how he's playing. I'm loading up. I will say if we get news that Murray is out, then we'll probably see that go up. But honestly, I hope Murray does play so this lower ownership can hold. So 20% men there. I was debating on going higher, but with such a large slate and trying to make sure I have good exposures elsewhere, didn't want to go too crazy. But last night he put up a was a 31 point, 7 rebounds and 5 assists. Like this dude is just smashing game after game, and the field's not reacting to it. So I definitely want to continue to ride this train while it's hot and go well over. So one of my favorite plays tonight in this spot. Going right back to Tim Hardaway Jr. He didn't break the slate or anything last night, but he did better than a lot of the chalk pieces that we played last night. So same deal with him. Going to continue to play a ton of minutes. Still cheap. Hopefully he gets more shots up than he did last night. But another guy I'm going to go even heavier on if Murray is out. But for now, just a 20% min on. So being aggressive there again. And then going back to Gordon, he did okay, but didn't do what we hoped he did. But love attacking this Dallas front court. So solid spot for Gordon and going right back to him. And then just in case he does play, I put a 15% min on Murray. Of course, we'll adjust if need to if he gets rolled out. But, I mean, this dude is almost averaging 60 fantasy points a game. I think like the last 4 or 5, he's gotten pretty much right there. So I have a simple rule when it comes to him. If Jokic is out, I'm playing Murray. So that's pretty much it for me. And then, again, if Murray gets rolled out, then I'll go to Pickett, but not really going anywhere else for now.
Yeah, I like the way you're seeing this game. I see it similarly. I have a 15% min on Jamal Murray. That's just not going to be a question for me. I do think he'll probably miss, but I'll react to that more significantly once we get the news. For now, him having the Q tag is what's keeping his ownership as low as it is, and so I'll just make sure I'm over the field on that. Peyton Watson, like you said, we talked about it yesterday. He does everything for this team. And 7,700 still feels a little cheap. When he hits the 8K range plus, I'll start to think about it a bit more. But for now, I'm not as aggressive as you. I only have like a 10% min on him, just slightly over the field. But I like the 20. Like that's ballsy. And then Tim Hardaway Jr., I have a 10% min on. Like you said, he looked solid yesterday. I like already having exposure to him. And then I'll have way more if Jamal Murray gets ruled out. Same with Pickett. So that's the approach for now. But a lot of these late games, I think we'll just adjust and have to change with late swap information. We don't have time for a rant I have about people who think late swapping makes you a better DFS player and how important it is. It's important on a slate like this, but I don't think slates that make you late swap make it a good slate. So whatever. Anyway, for the Mavs, we have Q tags. Anthony Davis is out. PJ Washington is questionable. Max Christie is doubtful. Brandon Williams is questionable. If a lot of these guys end up getting ruled out, we'll have a lot of value potentially from Dallas tonight. But for now, assuming everyone plays, how are you treating the Mavs?
Yeah, it's kind of a hard situation to read with those Q tags still lingering, but I at least wanted some exposure to guys I'm comfortable with having, even if PJ and Williams play. So, of course, Cooper Flag. It's hard not to like him in this spot. He's minus that one game, I think it was against Chicago, where he was kind of a chalk bomb. Outside of that, he's been playing more solid and just looking really good and kind of slowly taking over this team. So definitely want to have some exposure to him in this kind of game where I think it can be one of those close, competitive, high scoring spots for him. And then Najee Marshall was the only other guy I was comfortable with for now until we get the news. Plays a ton of minutes and a guy who can get you 40 plus. So 6,200 willing to take a shot in this spot. As far as everybody else, is kind of a wait and see approach for me.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, just in the sense of I'm open to playing Brandon Williams in this spot against Denver. I've always kind of liked playing guards against them. It's just his Q tag makes it so I don't feel comfortable putting him in on him. So I'll just hold off for now. I have a 20% min on Cooper Flag. He's the guy I want to be over the field on. I can't take a shot on that. I don't love Najee typically unless there's injuries. If PJ Washington gets ruled out, I'll load up. He's been good though, even without them. His minutes are secure. Again, that's just a personal bias thing I'll have to work through one day. But if PJ Washington plays, I won't have a min on Najee. So just 20% min on Flag for me. And then for now, I'm still holding off on Brandon Williams. Next game, we have 229.5 total. We have wide spreads for the next two games at 11 points. For the Knicks tonight, kind of like the Cavs game, it's just a little boring because everyone's healthy. The Kings aren't a team to avoid by any means. So it's just kind of like a decent matchup, but it looks like you have a couple of guys you still like here.
Yeah, I really don't like this game overall, and it's more so just upside plays than anything, and very well could be a blowout because Sacramento is just not good at all. So could get ugly, but still going to play a couple guys. So put a 10% min on Brunson. He hasn't been in the best form, but we know what kind of upside he has. And then Cat, you can say what you want about Cat, but in this kind of spot, uh, especially with how weak the Sacramento front court has been, this is a smash spot for him. So willing to at least take a shot. His floor has been very scary lately, but I know that upside is still there. So at 8,700 in a spot like this, I'm definitely willing to take a shot. And then you can always make a argument for guys like Josh Hart, OG, and Bridges, but it's literally a guessing game trying to figure out which of those three are going to smash. But if you wanted to throw like a 5% min on them, if you're doing 150, definitely wouldn't talk you out of doing that. And then I was getting a lot of Mitch Rob earlier, but of course, when we got news that Zubac was out and getting a bunch of Lopez, he kind of went down. But definitely don't hate at least matching the field there. He's been in better form, but I do like Lopez better as the value play. So pretty much just Brunson and Cat for me and moved on.
Yeah, I undersold how bad the Kings are defensively. They're literally one of the worst defenses in the league. And so I have a 10% min on Brunson, so I'll be slightly under the field, but I just want exposure on a slate like this. And I have a 10% min on Cat. so a little bit higher than you, but it's just really attacking the matchup. The problem is there's a pretty good chance this game blows out. There's just as high of a chance that one of Hart, OG, or Bridges stop guys like Brunson and Cat from having true ceiling games. So I'm not going crazy here. I just want to force exposure to their 2 stars. For the Kings side of this game, absolutely tough and brutal matchup here. Not one I like to pick going too often. Sacramento, they don't really have any injury news besides Dennis Schroeder still getting out for his suspension. Looks like you like a little bit of Monk, though. What's your thought process?
Yeah, Monk is usually a guy I avoid. Overall, he's been trash this season, but it's hard to ignore the last 2 games he's had. So don't really like it, but it's more so just kind of the current form he's in, and still fairly cheap at 4,900, and should continue to see great minutes. So put a 10% min there, but honestly not my favorite play tonight. And then I didn't do anything else. I am getting some Precious. Let me see where he's at. He fell quite a bit. He was another guy I was getting quite a bit, but with some of that other value we started to get, he fell. But he's another 4K guy who's playing a ton, has been fairly solid. But again, not my favorite in this spot, but wouldn't talk you off of him. And I can't do Westbrook, DeRozan, or Levine. They're just way too volatile.
Hey, DeRozan had a good game last
He
time
did
out.
have a good game, but
Random.
yeah.
He's been slightly more consistent here.
I just don't like the matchup for him. If it was a better spot, at least DeRozan, I wouldn't mind a shot on. But yeah, I can't do it against the Knicks.
I'm with you. Westbrook, DeRozan, Levine, screw that, not doing it. I have a 15% min on Malik Monk. I do like him. I have exposure to him, 4,900. But like you said, I can't really give you a lot of reasons for why I like him. It's really just his price tag. Sim likes him a little bit. It's a good value play to have in the mix, but it's not something I would run home and talk about all the time. For Precious, I'm with you. He's showing up in about 21% of lineups for me. I'm okay with that. Once again, I'll highlight a bias. I like Precious Achiuwa. I know he can be explosive. This season hasn't had the best point per minute, but we still know he has that capability. It is a tough matchup, bit of a revenge narrative for him too. I like having as much exposure as I do, but I didn't do anything to force it. That's just the DS doing its thing. So hopefully it's right. Yeah, John, bit of a revenge game for him. So he really should be mad. Like, you end up in Sacramento, like they sent you to the desert to die, man. Like, that's brutal.
Rough.
All right. And they didn't really play him as much as they should have. Anyway, rant for another day. Last game on the slate, we have the Washington Wizards going up against the Clippers. Widespread, like we mentioned. Wizards suck. But for DFS purposes, we still have to look at them. Trae Young's not playing yet, but no real other injury news to talk about. You like any of these guys?
Not really like. Almost skipped past this team, but took a couple of shots on 3 or 5% man on Trey Johnson and Bub Carrington. They're cheaper guys that I'm okay with taking a risk on, play a lot of minutes. They've been very solid lately, and then definitely want to take a shot. Like you just said, Trey's not playing yet, and of course they lost CJ and Kispert, so kind of open up a bigger role for these guys. So not the best spot for them, but both of them were kind of popping on the sim model. And like I said, they've both been playing well. So just a couple spots I'm trying to get different in, but most likely not needed tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I hate Washington tonight against the Clippers. But with Zubac ruled out, Brook Lopez playing, I do think it will be a softer matchup for Sarr. And the issue of Sarr is just he doesn't see the most consistent minutes, but I have a 5% min on him. Just kind of betting for a little bit of upside. I'll be honest, these mins for these late games, I'm not taking super seriously. I like these spots, but if I have to late swap, I know a lot of it's going to change. So it's not something I'm hyper focusing on too much. It's just a spot that I think could be good for Sarr. So he got a 5% min, so a little bit of leverage there. Next up, we have the Clippers going up against the Washington Wizards, they're the ones who have the really soft matchup. For the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard is questionable. He's been questionable for a lot of these games. He typically plays, but there's still a risk if he gets ruled out. There'll be a big bump to Harden and some of the other starters. Zubac is out. Brook Lopez is likely to start, and he's only 3,700. He's the chalk of the slate. What are your thoughts with these Clippers, man?
Yeah, I love this team quite a bit. Wizards are one of the worst teams in the league, so smash spot for quite a few of these guys. Brook Lopez is the obvious play. No Zubac, only 3,700. He will be a core play tonight. Uh, Ownership went up quite a bit, but I definitely want to match the field on James Harden. And he looked much better last game. He's kind of been hovering around like just under 50 fantasy points, which around this 9,500 price tag, we need to see more. So it was definitely nice to see him kind of play like he used to. Of course, blowout isn't concerned, but when it's a spot against the Wizards, I don't overthink it
Yeah.
too much. Didn't do anything with Kawhi. I just felt like this isn't really a spot they need to push him, and don't really want to get stuck with having a lot of him. So didn't do anything there, but if he plays, I definitely don't hate it. Jordan Miller, pretty aggressive on. Out of all the value plays, he sees the most minutes off the bench, and especially if Kawhi gets rolled out, he's going to be an even better play. So just kind of want to get aggressive with the matchup that he's in. John Collins, another guy I typically avoid, but again, it's the Wizards, and he's only 6,100 through a 10% min there. Can't do done even in this spot. He just never really shows much upside, and his usage is fairly low, so couldn't get there. And then I went pretty aggressive on Niederhauser. We've seen the last time Zubac was out, there was a couple games where he played over 20 minutes, and I'm pretty sure those games were blowouts. So if this game does blow out, he's going to benefit big time, and he's only 3K min price. So I went very aggressive with a 15% min there. And then kind of the same for Kobe Sanders. I don't feel as confident there, but again, if Kawhi gets rolled out or if there is a blowout, he's another guy who will benefit in that situation. So just put a 10% min. So wanted to be very aggressive with the value plays off the bench. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking here.
Yeah, I am with you on a lot of this. Brook Lopez is showing up in 99% of my lineups. So, well, no, now 98%. So that changed a little bit. But I am getting a lot of exposure to him here in a soft matchup. And then Jordan Miller, he shows up by himself, but I did put a 15% min on him just so I didn't have to worry about other value switching that as news continues to break. I wasn't on the Niederhauser play, but I like it. It makes sense at 3K, 5% min there. Then I have a 30% min on James Harden, just making sure I'm over the field on him in a soft matchup. Then I have a 20% min on Kawhi Leonard. Again, I do think he plays as a soft matchup, and if the game can stay close, then I think he definitely can exceed value. But that's a big if it stays close. But I like being over on him in a soft matchup. And then John Collins is going to be a pre-lock show leverage play for me. I have a 20% min on him, only 6,100. Great matchup, and he's been slightly better here lately. So hopefully that's a trend of things that will continue. But yeah, y'all, that's pretty much this slate in a nutshell. We'll look at a couple of these questions. Rob Luzier said, who are the guys in single entry you think are must-haves and guys you're scared not to have? I think we kind of talked about guys we're scared not to have kind of throughout the show, but who are some of your must-have guys for single entry?
Yeah, Brook Lopez for sure. Definitely want to make sure I have Shed. Murray Boyles is kind of debatable as must have, but I just love both of those guys with Quickly and Mamu and Podol out. So those would probably be some of the top three options I have.
Yeah. I think for me, it's really Shed and Lopez. And outside of that, I'm just kind of letting the DS do most of it. But for single entry, yeah, it's really just Lopez and Shed for me that I would say I feel like are must-haves. Rockin' Rodfoy said, I know I butchered however you want me to pronounce that. How do you, or who do you like better, Lopez or Nurkic?
That's such a hard question to answer because they're completely different price ranges. So just you have to ask yourself what you're trying to do. Are you trying to fit in an expensive player elsewhere or um, not? So, I mean, like we just said, Brooke Lopez is one of our top priorities. So he's going to be in pretty close to every line tonight. So if you can find out how to play both, then I'm definitely fine with that. But definitely can't compare the two at the prices.
Yeah, I think that's it. If it's your last spot, I would just put Nurkic in if you can afford him. If you're starting your lineup, I'll put Lopez in because he allows you to do a lot more at his price tag. So it just kind of depends, like B-Dub said, how you're building. All right, y'all. That's going to be it for today. I'll be back tomorrow, maybe with somebody else here. We don't know. We'll see. TBD. But I wish you all nothing but luck. If you're not a DFS Army member, click the link in the description. Use promo code BDUB. Yeah, Johnny, right. Most of my lineups have both. That's the vast majority of what I have. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you. Peace out. Good luck.